what would I relapse over? Like, nothing is worth that because I've gotten through so many things without drugs and alcohol.
Hello and welcome to a new episode of Coming Clean Podcast. This is your host, Peter O. Estevez. I want to welcome you today again, and I want to remind you to please go to my website, comingcleanpodcast.com, and register to receive the first chapter of my upcoming book, From Lies to Riches, to be released early next year. Please do so. Sign up, log in, enter your email address. That's all you need to do, and then you will be able to qualify to be able to receive a free chapter of my book, and of course, get on our mailing list if you so desire, and be updated as to upcoming events that we will be hosting at Coming Clean Podcast and other platforms. But today is not about me. Today is about a beautiful lady that, congratulations, just got married, had some incredible pictures on social media. Looked like a beautiful wedding. Courtney Friel. And keeping it real. How are you? Thank you and welcome.
And congrats on your upcoming book. Trust me, it is no small feat getting a book out.
Yes, and I love your cover. You know, it's been for me. It's been a 5-year journey. You know, wrote it, edited, edited, and I don't know your experience. But my experience was how I felt 5 years ago, and then reading it. You know, proofreading it. 3 years later, I mean, I didn't feel the same way. So there was a lot of editing and changing that I needed to do because it was.
Yeah, I've heard that happen. And mine was a 2-year process, but it was a disaster. I'm just glad that I have the final product, and the intention was to help people. And that's why I wrote it. And the benefit, because trust me, you don't write a book to make money. So the fact that I get instant messages from people saying like, oh, your book helped me so much, like that is the payment, that's the reward.
Yeah, Courtney is more than just an author and more than a TV personality, a news reporter at KTLA. She is also the host of Keeping It Real. She's recently wedded. She just recently got married, and she's a mom to 2 beautiful children.
Yeah, I have a very full life, but I think it is all thanks to being sober, and I have 11 years now, and I just love living life without drugs and alcohol, and I didn't think that it was something I could do the prior 15 years before, because I drank every day from 15 to 29 and had tons of cocaine and all sorts of pills involved in the mix. And I didn't think I could do anything without substances. And now I can do everything without substance.
Yeah, absolutely. It's you are reborn, right? When you are able to find your sobriety, you're able to enter into a present state of being. At least that was my experience. Courtney, but you didn't come out in your sobriety for almost 6 years. Was there a particular reason that you didn't make that a public announcement?
To my friends,
you're such a public person. Perfect.
To my friends and family, they knew what was going on because I'm really open about it. And I had wanted to, I felt like 5 years was the time to do it, but 5 years ended up timing out exactly with my divorce. And so like right around the 7-year mark was when I was like, okay, I feel like I'm finally ready to start writing the book. But I think my first post, I was like in Mexico, and I was with another sober person, and like we posted like daiquiris, and I was like, just like virgins, the drinks, that is. Like that was my first post about it. And then I think when I turned 6 years sober, I just started posting about it, and that's kind of why the book came about, because I was getting so many questions. Like people wanted to know more about my story. They wanted tips for either themselves or their loved ones. You know, how do you do it? And you can't respond in a 140 character tweet about that. And also, like, I don't have the time to, you know, sober coach everybody on, you know, through Instagram DMs. So I was like, this would be great if I had one place for it all. And then when I started writing, I started reading all these other recovery books, because in a book proposal, you usually have to do like a competitive like analysis of like how your book is similar or different to other books like it out there. And I so many addiction books are all the like craziness. And I get it. People want to hear the craziness, but it's like, here's all the crazy shit I did. Then I got sober, or then I went to rehab, and that's what it was like. And then I'm sober at the end. And you're like, wait, is that person even still sober? And then what? Well, what's their life like now? So I kind of just limited most of the craziness to the first 2 chapters. And then chapter 3 was rehab, because obviously there's lots of interest in what rehab is like. And then each chapter after is kind of how I tackled things like, you know, parenting, my divorce, sober dating, chronic pain, dealing with work stress, you know, how I learned to meditate, how I have fun sober. So that's what it's about. And I'm proud of the message, and it's getting great reviews, feedback, and I might even be a masochist and want to do another book down the road.
Oh, I think that would be great. I don't think that's being a masochist. I think that the discovery that we do about ourselves through the process of writing is incredible. And you talk a lot about journaling. You talk a lot about your process of healing and discovering yourself through journaling. What was it that interests you about journaling, and what is it that you find so soothing in journaling, per se, for yourself?
So it's interesting that you mentioned how we evolved, because I didn't journal up to the point when I started writing the book, even to when I was finished. The journaling has been like pretty much this past year. And the reason I got into it is because I have a chronic headache. For over 3 years, ever since August of 2017, I have a constant headache every waking moment, and it feels like someone is like reaching in and twisting my brain, and it's kind of bad right now. And it just is it a level 1, 2, or 10? It's always there. And so I've tried every possible thing under the sun. Chapter 9 in my book is all about that, because I can't be like on muscle relaxers all the time because I'm sober. But I listened to Dr. Sarno's The Mind Body Prescription book, and I've come across some like the Curable app and some podcasts about how to heal your chronic pain, and they all talk about journaling and like writing to your subconscious. And I think like for me, my conscious is so laid back. Like I'm very easygoing. Like I let things, like I don't get bothered by things as much. And, you know, I'm able to let things go. So in my conscious, it doesn't seem like I'm stressed, but my subconscious must be. And so that's what the journaling is about. Like you're supposed to talk to your rage, and you're like, you have to be like, I'm enraged about the traffic. Like I'm enraged about this COVID situation. Like it's basically talking to your pain and telling your brain, like, you don't have to distract me with the pain. I'm willing to deal with the emotions, because my conscious is so like, doo-doo, I meditate, like I'm all good. If that makes sense.
No, it makes a lot of sense, because I believe that a lot of us, but most particularly people that have addiction issues, we have a tendency of creating multiple masks, right? So in the public persona, we appear that everything's fine, and there is no telling how much we're hiding and bottling up. And that has to go somewhere. That has to be somewhere within our subconscious, and it needs to come out and be expressed in some type way of in some kind of shape or form, right? Because if not, I truly believe, we were talking earlier about, you asked me a little bit more about the podcast and the platform, and I told you, you know, I pivoted the podcast to be more inclusive about all types of topics, because I'm more than my recovery, I'm more than my sobriety, you know, I'm whole and complete. But I didn't always feel that way. You know, I felt that I had to either be recovery or be a drunk. I couldn't be whole. I was almost in limbo, right? And it was not until I incorporated rituals and habits that are very healthy for me that I felt whole and complete. It was something that took me out of myself. It took me out of my recovery and say, okay, so your story, you share it in service, but you don't live in your story. So I can see where that energy can be hidden within us and not be coming out and allowing us to have the headaches, to have the temptation to relapse, to have the cravings, to do whatever, because we're not tacking on those issues, right? I mean, it makes plenty of sense to me.
Yeah, we're all kind of messed up.
Right.
But the beautiful thing is that if you are in a 12-step program, you at least have an avenue to work on yourself through the 12 steps. And I think that everyone should do the 12 steps.
No, I completely agree with you. I believe that they're a roadmap to life. I mean, they're they talk to you about values, about making amends, about living a healthy life, about cleaning your side of the street. Things that we all need to do, because in reality is we all get drunk on something.
Oh yeah, we're all addicted to something.
We all get high on something, whether shopping, alcohol, drugs, pornography, whatever it is. Every single one of us. Social media. Now, Courtney, let's talk about your story.
Okay.
You know, you've been a public figure most of your life. You have always seek to be in front of the camera. At a very young age, you were, participating in school events that allow you to be part of that platform. But you struggled and started drinking at the age of 15. What was it at the age of 15? You're a beautiful woman. You have an incredible presentation. You're well spoken. What was it that you were not comfortable with?
Yeah. Well, to a certain extent, clearly my brain has the disease of alcoholism running through it. But I didn't know that back then. For me, I was really shy as a kid, and people were really mean to me. Like, girls were never nice to me. I did have some friends, but for the most part, they would gang up on me, and I didn't know how to stand up for myself. And I internalized that pain of not being liked, like not feeling like I fit in. And even like my friends didn't necessarily stick up for me to the bullies. And so when I started drinking at 15, number one, I came out of my shell and I started like making people laugh and being more confident. And I'd be like, F you bullies. Like, I just like numbed those people out. Like, I didn't care. So it helped me, numb out the pain of the bullies. And then it also made me this outgoing, funny person. And it's interesting because like I am still that funny person that alcohol made me be now without the alcohol. But when you first get sober, you're kind of like, who am I again? Your whole life is like up in the air. But yeah, that's how it started. And then I just really loved, I never even liked the taste of alcohol. I just liked the effects. I mean, the first time I drank, I had a bunch of beers and I threw up in my, in the shower. And my mom like caught me basically like the next day, the puke towels. And she was like, you're grounded. And so I didn't care. I was like, I'm doing that again.
So when did that get out of control? This is at 15. When was it that you said Courtney has a problem?
Well, I think going to college and then experimenting with like ecstasy and cocaine, that's where I learned those drugs. And then I moved out to Los Angeles for my sophomore year of college. And my roommate and I, we went to go like apply for a job at the tanning salon down the street. And like the very first night, our boss was a complete, like probably coke dealer too. He just had massive amounts of cocaine. So like we didn't have to hook up with him or anything. He would just he just wanted party buddies. So for that entire year, I was going to community college in LA. Like my roommate would just wake me up with like get out of bed, here's a line. Like we just had copious amounts of cocaine because like we'd go to work, I would do lines and then jump in a tanning bed. So we were like super tan and really skinny. And then I would do coke all through school. And the sad thing about it is that was the only year of school that I got straight A's. So in a sense, cocaine really like did help. Like It's kind of like Adderall, which I also abused. I would snort Adderall when I didn't have my Coke. Yeah, so obviously it was getting out of control then. And then I ended up at Cedars-Sinai Hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. So I was like, oh, I'm never doing that again. Like I would always quit because I would think things were getting crazy or like something would happen. Like I got a job at World Poker Tour, and the very first night, like I ended up with the crew at 4 a.m. My dress was falling off. I passed out in a plate of spaghetti, and they told on me. And like the head guy called my manager, was like, do we have a problem here? So then that's when I was like, oh, I'm stopping everything. So I didn't drink for 9 months. But then I, of course, went back. I was always going back to it. And I just, you know, it came to a head at Labor Day weekend in 2009. I ended up with 7 people surrounding my bed because they couldn't wake me up. I was severely abusing Ambien. Like I loved getting messed up on Ambien. I would take it and like go out to a club. So I just was afraid that I was going to get in trouble buying Coke from some shady dealer, like in trouble with the law, and then lose my job. So I was working at Fox News Channel at the time, and I didn't want like to lose my job because I really cared about my career too. But I'm really blessed. Like I could have overdosed many times. I could have been in trouble with the law. And I know you were interested in one of the stories in particular, like when I would go down to Tijuana. I was living in San Diego at the time after the year in LA, where I did the Coke every day. My friends, we would go down and we met this pharmacist named Miguel, and we would just like do tons of cocaine in the back of the pharmacy in Tijuana. And then one time I was doing it in my car, and a federale knocked on the window because it was in broad daylight. And he's like, yeah, we're going to need $200 for me to let you go. So I went to the ATM, got in the $200, and I was like, can I get the Coke back? And he gave it to me.
Wow. Wow, those are some negotiating skills right there.
Right, I went back to my party in San Diego. I was like, you guys, this is really expensive Coke tonight.
So let me ask you a question. Even having those experiences, were you ever scared? Was this, you know, I cannot, you know, my business is, I'm in the oil and gas business, right? I have a refinery in Tijuana. I still get freaked out when I cross the border and I get asked for my passport. You get what I'm saying? And I'm not doing absolutely anything wrong. Did you ever feel that fear, that you know, that anguish that something could go wrong?
I was just so selfish and just messed up. Like I just didn't care. I mean, looking back now, obviously there's tons of introspection that happens when you're sober. And I just was like, I just like loved getting messed up, but yet I still was high functioning in the sense that like I cared about my career and I was working in the news business or trying to get to the next job. Like I was just so lost, and being on cocaine and alcohol just made me have this superpower where like I just didn't worry about that stuff, I guess. I mean, it was a safer time to go to Tijuana. I mean, now, look, I would be I feel like I'm such a square now. I would be so afraid to do like people, like someone, I just read about like one of those actors dying from doing coke and there was fentanyl in it. And like nowadays, what sort of chemicals are in all these things? I used to go to Vegas and I would be wasted and I would just be like walking around a club and I would let random people put ecstasy in my mouth.
Wow.
Yeah, and then I'd like end up in weird places, you know, like I have so much, you know, I have shame obviously about it, but I'm glad I was able to stop it.
It's part of your story, and now you're on the other side of that. And you know what? We're only become as sick as our secrets, right? So for our journey, for our recovery, for our purpose of moving on and leaving our story behind, we have to get it out. We have to explain it. We have to share it. And you know, the reality is that our stories are not told for us, you know, because they're the story of many. You know, we just happen to be the brave ones that talk about it, you know?
Well, yeah. Well, and that's the thing, like, when I got a lot of people like, well, why are you putting that stuff out there? And I'm like, do you realize how many people are actually still doing this, like in your workplace? I mean, come on. Like, they're actually doing it. I'm telling you that I did it, and I haven't done it for 11 years, you know? Like, so that's the good thing. Like, there's people doing it right now in your office.
Sure. Sure. So let me ask you a question. Now, as a mother, you know, with two young children, how do you navigate those conversations? How do you talk to them about your sobriety? And how do you talk to them about what they can expect from the world? You know, because your place may be your home may be a safe haven, but you can't control what goes on outside your home, right? Just like your parents can control theirs.
So my kids are almost 9 and 10 now. And they know, like, so my new husband just turned 19 years sober yesterday. So we gave him a cake, and then, you know, they know now, like, each year it's like, oh, mommy's celebrating her birthday from drinking alcohol. And so they have their mom and stepdad as good examples. And then we have so many friends. Like, we've been holding a meeting at the house since COVID. So, like, all these people that they know from us that are close in their lives, like, you know, and their friends, moms and dads, like, they know everybody doesn't drink alcohol. So they're getting like a positive example. My daughter said to me, she's like, Mommy, I'm not going to drink alcohol. And I was like, oh, why is that? She's like, because you don't. Now, she totally has like every symptom of becoming, like, just how she is. I'm like, she's totally going to be an alcoholic. But the good news is that kids who have parents in the program tend to find the 12-step meetings way earlier. Like, they're all the people I feel like get sober really young because they were led into it. So, I mean, we can't control anyone else. Like, fate is what it will be. All I can do is, you know, luckily, like, they're not at the age of like 16 where their friends are influencing. Oh my gosh, and who even knows, like, are they ever going to get to leave the house? Like, will they ever even will they ever see friends again in person? Even be like influenced?
Of course they will, and that's a different conversation. But let me ask you a question. What has been your biggest lesson in sobriety? What is it about sobriety that you say, wow, I am so glad that this has happened? Is there one particular thing that pops up?
I just feel like a badass. Like, I just look at all the shit I've been through without taking substances. Like, I mean, divorce was crazy painful. Like, sober dating, you know, being a mom, like, all of those things are hard. But then add to the layer of my job and all the mass shootings I've covered and all the horrible, horrible, horrible shit I've seen where I've, you know, been in it. Like, you know, all the times with the fires, it's like I'm going around from house to house to house, interviewing people who've just lost their homes. I mean, it's super depressing. And then, you know, 5 days a week, all I'm doing is like reading headlines of like all these, you know, kids that have been killed and all that. So, like, that's why I feel like so many people in my business drink anyways, just to numb that stuff out. So the fact that for 11 years, like, I have gone through life on life's terms, like that's why, you know, it's my superpower. Like, it's what I take so seriously, or I'm so proud of it. Like, I wouldn't want, like, what would I relapse over? Like, nothing is worth that, because I've gotten through so many things without drugs and alcohol.
I love that. That's a great response. Let me ask you a question. In your book, you kind of walk us through what is life like in sobriety. First, you share your stories, and then you talk about divorce, and you talk about marriage, and you sober dating. And so share with us, what was the difference in sober dating? Because I mean, you know, I've been sober 23 years, and the very first few dates, well, I was married and then divorced, and then the very first couple of dates as being out there and being sober were weird. They were strange. I didn't know how to behave, and I'm sure that the other individual, because, you know, alcohol is into the mix of celebration, right? It's a spirit, okay? It's into love. It's into romance. It's how you take off take off the edge. It's a family reason, so it's everywhere. How did you navigate that in your sober world?
Yeah, so it's amazing because like I'm such a reporter, so I like stalk everyone's Instagram pages. So I was kind of like, these people, like if they do any sort of research on me, they're gonna know I'm sober. But apparently they don't. Like I would just try to do things that were like, hey, let's go, like want to do a morning hike, or I would schedule my dates because I'm the weekend anchor at night. So I would say, hey, like let's meet between shows. And that was a great out for me because like I didn't even have to explain anything. Like it's like, no, I have to
Back to work. Yeah.
I have to anchor the 10 o'clock news. So like I'm not gonna be drinking. Trust me, like I had some crazy stories of people who like showed up coked out of their mind, or you know, knocked on my door like wasted, even though they knew, like, or they try to like, I had a couple people really try to see, like they were just assholes, like, oh come on, just have a sip, just have a sip. I'd be like, what? No, like, oh, just have one. Like,
Yeah.
do you know? I mean, I just think that a lot of people, unless they have like a loved one or they've gone through it themselves, like they really don't know what it's about. And and you had asked me like, why didn't I come out earlier about it? Like times have definitely changed since, you know, 4 or 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Now people are, you know, my friend just posted that she has 20 months sober. I'm all for sharing it if you feel like you are going to stay that way forever. Because once you put it out there, like you can't be like posting pictures of you drinking, or you're going to look like a failure. People will be like, oh, she's off the wagon again. So if you're like confident, hey, I think I can do this, and maybe like wait 2 years, see if you can get 2 years under your belt. That's my advice. And I felt like 6 years, like I'd have enough credibility on the matter. Like it was some time.
Was there any particular moment when you felt like, fuck this? You know, because I gotta be honest with you, Courtney. I had a great time when I drank. I mean, not every drink was messy. You know, to me, I was a functionally drunk. I was a functioning alcoholic, and what got bad for me towards the end was I was a married man, very promiscuous, got out of control, and the moral hangover in the morning of people telling me, reminded me what I did, how I behaved, how I flirted, how I was inappropriate. That to me was completely, I mean, it bothered me because I already had insecurity issues, right? I already had self-worth issues. I already had all that junk that I had not addressed. Okay. So you know, you're trying to live a life a certain way, you know, I was married, having kids and stuff like that. And I wanted that life. I just didn't know how to navigate through that life sober, right? But I didn't know how to navigate through that life sober because I had not clean out my shit. I had not cleaned out my mess. I was carrying that mess in, you know, on my back. I had a huge pack up of junk, carrying it and trying to live this good life. And I couldn't navigate it. It was weighing too much on me. So how did you navigate that? And was there any particular moment that you said, fuck it, I mean, I just gonna, you know, go back, or that thought has never crossed your mind?
Well, there's never been, thankfully, like the desire to drink has been lifted for me. I mean, I did, like when I went to rehab, like so many things. Well, first of all, backing up, like I have had a couple things happen to me where I was like, all right, I feel like this is gonna end soon. Like I saw this video of me on a train with my bra on my head, and I was like falling all over the place and like snorting and like just like a hot mess, and I was in a blackout. So I saw that, like I didn't even know that video had been taken. I was just appalled and horrified by my behavior. And also the like Heath Ledger and DJ AM, like there were all these celebrities that were dying right around that time, and I was thinking, gosh, like that's gonna be me one day. But I still didn't care if it was me. And so when I was presented the opportunity to go to rehab, like it was kind of an ultimatum. I was like, okay, I surrendered. I knew in my hangover state at that moment, like, all right, this will be the best thing I'll ever do for myself. I have more to give this world. Like I deserve more for myself. And yet I still was like, oh, I'll just do it for a year. But I went to rehab and I was like, Legally Blonde goes to rehab, like, sit in the front row, take notes, okay, do what they say. It was just a very vulnerable experience being in rehab anyways. But luckily the obsession to drink did go away, and I can just see situations now and I'm just like, oh, this is a time where I'd want to drink, when I have, a horrible day at work, like I'm really stressed, like I can identify the times where, yeah, I would have wanted to drink, but I'm going to have to do a healthier thing. Like, and that's when I set my phone for 20 minutes and I just I write down my anger. I write what's bothering me. And then I meditate for 20 minutes after that. That's like the process. And then I pray. And so if I do that, then my mood is completely flipped. I just feel so much better. Or I'll drive to the beach and do a power walk or something. Or I'll take a shower, or I'll eat a bunch of carbs and then I'll go to bed. I mean, I know that everything is better with just a good night's sleep.
Good. So you were the youngest newscaster to be hired at Fox.
Yes.
And your career has taken off since then. So tell us a little bit about how did that pressure of being the youngest woman in that space affect your addiction at the time?
Well, it kind of was like high school all over again. People weren't necessarily nice to me. I mean, I was really green. I was kind of set up to fail there because they threw me into something that I wasn't ready for. And then the bloggers, they were all like, oh my God, look at her bikini pictures. And there was a blogger that was so mean to me. And then internally, some of the anchors, they were not happy that I was getting so much attention. So it really was it was kind of like high school all over again, those feelings, and it just continued on of the okay, I'm going to hang out with the people who like to party and they accept me and they think I'm fun. And I'm going to, those are the people that I'm going to seek to hang out with. And then I'm going to continue numbing out all the other feelings.
Now, have you had that sense, that feeling, that high school feeling phenomena again since your sobriety?
I mean, when I went to KTLA, maybe there was a little bit of it, but we all actually really get along at KTLA and we support each other. And there are so many amazing women who they all have their passion projects on the side, whether it's a dog charity or whether it's something to do with raising awareness for this cause or that cause. A lot of us are, into meditation or we're into self-help. It's really cool because, and we, now I've been there 8 years and all the same people are there. It's kind of like when you go there, I haven't seen anyone leave. We always say it's a KTLA family. And when I threw my charity event and my book stuff, I feel really supported there. So even, with writing the book and everything, so it's good. And I've done so much work that I know that anyone else's problem with me is on them. It has nothing to do with me. So if you have never, this is my biggest tip. Read The Fifth Agreement by Don Miguel Ruiz. Those agreements will just help you master your mind. It's insane how you just always do your best, be skeptical and learn to listen. Don't make assumptions. Don't take things personally. They're the best. I mean, it's helped me tremendously. If someone, I remember I was driving and I did not cut a person. I was turning, some guy got so mad at me. I did not do anything and I own my stuff. And I thought he was waving to say hi and he wanted me to roll down my window. I was he's you're a stupid, dumb bitch, woman driver. And I was whoa.
Oh.
I was bless you. And he was F you. And then that's something that would have bothered me all day. But I was able to just be like, oh, he must be having a bad day. Like I wasn't even involved in what he was talking. Like, I'm like, mind your own business. He wasn't even involved in it. He like, I was just like blown away. And so as long as you're able to realize that people are only focused on their story and what the roles they want people to play in their story, and if you don't fit the role, if you're not like, if you're like viewers who say things about like how I dress or just whatever, it's like, oh, well, they want their newscaster to be buttoned up in a jacket, I guess, so that's on them. Like, that has nothing to do with me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the reality is that when you become present, when you become aware of who you are, that stuff just rolls off. It just peels off. It doesn't. I used the example yesterday of crossing the border, right, and passing my passport and giving my passport to the agent and going through, and my partner who was with me. He was a little agitated because they were asking us, what were you there for? And, how long were you there? And I told him it's a minute or 45 seconds, whatever is questions, and they're doing their job, okay? Answer the questions, move on, and that is it. Well, we're being held up, and we've already been in line for an hour, and so the reality is, I believe that when we are able to find our true being, our true selves, who we are, and we become present, we begin to understand that energy can go through us or stay with us and stick to us and make us a complete mess. And I choose the first. I
feel that a lot with patients. Like the fact that I meditate, and lately I've really been coming into that where I'm just able to like step back and be like, okay, it's going to take how long it takes. Like, don't get anxious about this. But people who aren't in that like conscious, meditative space, like, get really bothered, and like their like fuses are so short.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's next for you? You're an accomplished author. You a TV personality. You just recently got married. You're raising two beautiful children. What's next?
Well, believe it or not, even someone like me can be like confused about what they want to do or where they, their next plan of action. I kind of just have to be in the present. And like, is there another, I kind of thought about maybe another book down the road. This book is being turned into a movie.
I know that. I want to talk about that in a minute. Yes.
Yeah. So the first writer kind of dropped off. So we have my husband is a screenwriter, so I know all about that world and how it takes forever and how, I'm not going to get my hopes up because some things don't happen, but there's another writer that was just brought on board. So the plan is, she's got to write the treatment. And then the good news is that the production company, this is the craziest story, Peter. Yesterday I had a call just with like the head person, because before it's been like managers or other people on the phone. And I told her that every day I just surrender. I told her that like, I basically was like, God, bring the right writer on board for this project, like help it be a good script that gets out there, that gets made so that it will help other people. And so I told her that, and she was like, and we never discussed like religion or anything. And she was like, do you mind if I pray for you? And I was like, yeah. And so she did this like really long prayer that like went in to and the writer like has COVID now. So we were praying for her, and I just sat there, but she was praying for like our country. She's in Australia right now, and like all the craziness with the election and just like the intention for the movie. And like me, I was just like in awe. Like I was like, that was such a beautiful moment.
Yeah. What a great powerful energy to bring to you.
And it made me feel like so good about like, okay, the people that I'm working with us on this, like we're all on the same page. And the writer who is going to do it now, like her son has 22 months sober. So she like kind of has a connection to the addiction world and everything. So I just have to remain positive about it.
Tell us a little bit, let's go a little bit deeper about your book. Tell us about, kind of carry us through, at the beginning you share your stories, our drunken love, right? So what happens in the book? What can we expect from the book?
Yeah, well, you'll hear all the crazy stories in the first few chapters. And there's crazy stories throughout, because I go back and be like, oh, well, back then I did this and now I do this. It's kind of what I said before, chapter 3 is all about rehab. Chapter 4 is coming back into Fox News, I would say the first year of sobriety, and how it's Groundhog's Day every day, and how you're what the F is happening. And then I get into, I have a great relationship with my ex-husband. I wasn't going to include him in any of the stories. I just decided to take the high road on that. And I was just hey, we amicably decided to split, because my kids, I didn't want them to read it one day.
Sure. Sure.
So, that's probably the only angle of the book where I didn't keep it Friel because of that. And so, like I said, we have a great relationship. But I talk about how to have a amicable divorce, and how sobriety has allowed me to do that. And I look back at how the relationship was codependent, and how addicts get into that spot, and so what they can do to just in terms of relationships with everyone. And then I jump into the sober dating, those experiences, and how I ultimately ended up, with meeting my sober husband now. And then chapter 7 is meditation 101, and I journey the whole thing, because I didn't discover that till 5 years sober, and just how it's completely changed my life, how to do it. Chapter 8 is all of the crazy work stories, how I felt during the Vegas shooting, and just these horrible trials I've had to sit in, where I've seen the dead bodies and all that stuff. So how I managed that. And then chapter 9 was dealing with chronic pain, and that jumps into how I used to go to Mexico to get all the pills, and hang out with Miguel, the pharmacist in Tijuana. And then chapter 10 is how to have fun sober, and I talk about just all the travels I've been on, and also what people say to me when I'm out and about. I was dancing at a club one time, and this guy came up and was like, how much cocaine are you on? And I realized now I was like, oh, that's actually smart of him, because he's seeing if I have any, because he wants.
Right.
I was like, oh my God, that's the best compliment ever. I'm totally sober, but I fooled you, because I looked like I was having so much fun. Because you can have fun.
Absolutely. I think life for us begins in sobriety. If we know how to, if we know how to embrace sobriety and make it a part of our lives in a way that it doesn't consume our lives, but we integrate it into our lives, we're born again. Our life begins over.
No, I completely agree. I wish everyone could do it. I mean, it's unfortunate that most won't.
Courtney, let's talk about 2020. It's been a trying year for everybody. It's been a trying year for the news. We have a presidential election. We have COVID. We have probably one of the worst economies that we have had in our country. Unemployment is at a high rate. And of course, there's all the collateral damage that often doesn't get talked about. Drug addiction is up 30%. Alcoholism is up 30%. We're not even talking about mental illness. Mental health is up. Child abuse, spousal abuse.
But see, everybody wants to talk about that, and it drives me crazy, because the news just wants to, focus on the death and destruction, but they've never been into talking about drug abuse. It's just, I've tried many times to pitch stories on that, and it just goes nowhere. Because people look at it well, that's their doing. This is contagious. which, I mean, I understand that point, but we definitely are not focusing enough on all of the things that are happening. I mean, look, I know no one personally who's died of COVID, but I know like so many people who have overdosed and died.
Yeah. Yeah. Everywhere, literally, I think there's actually more deaths right now to suicide, addiction, overdose, more than there is to COVID on a daily basis. And I wish I had taken those statistics and share them, but they're definitely impacting our country. How do you see the upcoming election and where it's going and what impact it will have on our country? And I know that's a tough question.
Yeah, I mean, I don't personally I don't think any of the options are good. I almost was like, I don't want to vote.
Yeah.
I just want to sit this one out. But I know it's a privilege and civic duty and all of that. I really don't know. I mean, I'm anchoring on election day, and we'll just see how it plays out. I mean, it's been from a news perspective, like it's like, and then what? And now this, the Beirut explosion and the fires and like, I mean, it's just like one thing after another. Like, are you kidding me? Like hurricanes, and it's like, can 2020 just be over already? But unfortunately, from what I'm, hearing both like the news and behind the scenes, like we're going to be doing this COVID thing well into next year. So things are, I mean, everyone's just having to adjust.
It's certainly 2020 has been a year of us to be able to, I often say that the universe has given us an opportunity to pause and look at ourselves, who we are and who do we want to become. What does that mean to you, Courtney?
Well, I feel like, and don't hate me for this, but to be honest, 2020 has been amazing for me. Like, I came out with my book, thankfully, before COVID started. So I got to do like the book parties and all of that stuff. Then I got renewed at my job. Then my fiance and I bought a house during COVID. We got a COVID deal. Then my book got, picked up to be in a movie. Then I got married, even though it wasn't in Italy. Like I feel like, then the Lakers and the Dodgers won. I mean,
but you know what? Maybe this is the kind of stories we need to be hearing. There's no reason for people to hate you for this, because we want to see how people pivot into positive energy. Okay. Right. It's not just about staying in the problem, but actually looking what is beyond the problem and into the solution. And we cannot get beyond the problem if we don't focus on the solution. And obviously, you had to make some changes. You didn't get married in Italy, but you still had a beautiful wedding. I mean,
and look, I'm super grateful too. Like maybe because I'm not as effective. Like my work, like I'm busier than ever. Like I was still going in 5 days a week to work, so I wasn't home. I'm grateful that I still had my paycheck when so many people didn't. And I've been trying to like help out my friends who lost their jobs. Like, okay, like come over and, train me like physical, my trainer lost his job. I'm like, okay, I'm giving him more work. Like I'm giving my friend like, okay, teach my kids art. I'll pay you to do that. Or like, okay, come teach me yoga. Or like I'm helping people out that are, that I can. But for me, I think like I have had to do a lot of writing, journaling about COVID. Like I have had a lot of feelings about it. Not a Trumper by any means, but it's such a shit show, the whole thing, and I feel like since I've covered it every single day, like I see how we're fear mongering. I see how we are blowing things out of proportion. That's what the news does, so I don't know, but like, I don't know. And I don't know what's going to happen on Tuesday with the election. I really don't know.
What you do know is you can maintain that positive attitude, that beautiful smile of yours, and keep your energy going so others can be lifted by that. And that's doing a lot. Where can people find you? Where can people find you on social media? Where can people find your book?
My book is only on Amazon, but it is on Audible as well. And it's a fast, easy, fun read or listen. And all of my social media is at Courtney Friel. And yeah, I do have 27 podcast episodes, but with COVID, like the studio where I was shooting it at, that shut down, and like things have now altered with that. I mean, it's just a mess, but one day I hope to pick that up again.
Courtney Friel, a mother, a new wife, an author, a TV personality, a sober woman, and an incredible human being. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much.
Such a great combo, Peter. Thank you so much, and thanks everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Courtney.